Hello and welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. I'm here as always with the two lads, Paul and Steve. How are we doing today, lads?
Fantastic, my friend. Paulie, how are we?
Good, yeah. Nice and bald. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Getting there though, it's looking a lot better. But we've a mixture today, lots of news from transfer talk from the Irish abroad, but also a mixture of League of Ireland topics. None bigger than Mikey Johnston to Flamengo this week. So huge move really. Joins from West Brom, £5 million pound deal. Crazy one, Steve.
Yeah, mad one. I mean, look, when you think of Mikey Johnston, you think of his flair. He's a real exciting player to watch. So I think he'll enjoy the Brazilian league. And for the Brazilian fans out there that might be watching this and don't know him, you'll enjoy him as well. But the legends he'll be playing with, Paul, I want you to touch on them.
Well, which ones do you want me to touch on?
I mean, Alexandro, to me, Alexandro and Mikey Johnston, the same team, is mad. I love it.
Yeah, well, there's him, and then there's obviously Jorginho, but he's more seen as an Italian legend, but he is Brazilian, and he's obviously won a lot of trophies with Chelsea and done well at Arsenal as well. He's had a good career, but I touch on him, and then Danilo, who never really, I suppose, lived up to potential in the Premier League with Man City and stuff like that, but he was brought in to kind of rival Kyle Walker in that position, but he just never really lived up to the expectation. But still a good player nonetheless.
Ended up as Juve's captain before he moved to Brazil as well.
Yeah, but it's still nonetheless a good player. When I look at but from a Mikey Johnston perspective, because a lot of like Brazilian fans that were commenting on the video that we put out yesterday, just reacting to the news, they were like, is he good? I haven't heard anything about him. The traits that he has, if he didn't have an Irish name or whatever, you go like he would be tailor made for that league. I mean, you look at someone like Memphis Depay, who's gone there, who's like a bit of a mad player in Europe. I'm not saying Johnson's on his level at all, but what I'm saying is just in terms of like the stuff that he does and he's done in the Brazilian league. Like he's added some rule now where people can't stand on the ball, because he was taking the piss so much. But Johnson's kind of that school of like skills and stuff like that. He can do outrageous things, but he's a real form player. He needs a little bit of form, like when he goes to a new club, but then he kind of fizzles out. So I think the Brazilians will be hoping he can have a bit of consistency there. What are your thoughts on the move? I know it's a totally random one, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, well, first of all, for Mikey Johnston, it's an unbelievable experience to be able to go out to that league. Like, it is a top level, and it's worth saying that Flamengo are top of the league in the Brazilian Serie A. I think they're 11 or 12 games into their season now. It's a different schedule, but you see the teams that are playing in the Club World Cup right now, and I know it's not maybe the highest level, and certain teams are treating it kind of as pre-season, but the Brazilian teams are really doing well in that tournament, beating the biggest joints in European football, and Flamengo are top of that league. So to have a player like Mikey Johnston, the first Irish international to play in Brazil, actually the first Irish international to play in South America, so absolutely historic like kind of move. I know it's funny, but it's amazing to see an Irish player going to such a top level.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I'm actually so excited for him to get going as well, and then to come in here every week and talk about how he's getting on. I love it.
Yeah,
I also think it'd be interesting to see if he could get to go over there and see a game and all that. So there's a lot of exciting prospects that came out of this now. You know what I mean? So not just him going there, but actually the fact of maybe getting over to see what it's like over there in Rio de Janeiro and all. It's just, in terms of as a lifestyle as well. I'm not sure how often he'll get picked for Ireland now, because I don't know how often he'll be getting watched, but like, and also he actually did play in Portugal as well. Let's not forget. So he'll have, language maybe won't be that much of a problem for him. So I hope he goes there and he settles in. It's probably going to be announced over the next couple of days. I know he'd said his goodbyes at West Brom. Lewis Cox is the reporter who reported it, and he basically said that he's said his goodbyes and he's gone off to finish the move. I'd say he's doing his medical, or he's already done it, and he's set to be announced probably tomorrow or the next day, I would say. But it's I love it. I love seeing our Irish players going out of England, because I see so many of them struggle in England, but when they, you think of so many of our players who've moved abroad and it's worked out well for pretty much the majority of them. If you think of it, it worked out for Festi going to Udinese. He kind of established himself over in Serie A. You think of Troy, who obviously is having his best season ever, and then Josh Cullen in Belgium. He really established himself in Anderlecht and became that player for Ireland. Then
The lad in the back of your jersey.
On Bambadelli, I think he hasn't really got to show what he can do yet for Strasbourg. But look, they're in Europe and all this year, so it'll be good. But I know you want to talk about another transfer anyway.
Yeah, well, I just want to say it's a good point actually you make about Mikey Johnston playing in Portugal. I forgot about that. But the other interesting one this week was Calum moving to Ferencváros, the Hungarian champions, obviously joining Robbie Keane, who's the manager there. He's 30 years old now. It's an undisclosed fee, moving on from Cardiff City. He's been playing left back the last couple of years and kind of found a home there. Whereas before he was kind of more of an advanced midfielder or a winger even, but a really interesting move and a great opportunity for him to actually play European football.
Yeah, I mean, look, this move wasn't as shocking for me because obviously Robbie Keane's over there, but
at least there's a bit of a connection there, you know.
Exactly, yeah. And look, I don't know, not much to say on this move, but he's leaving a struggling Cardiff team, and like you say, he's going playing European football, and his manager's one of the goats of Irish football. So yeah, not much to add to that for me.
Well, I just want to talk about him, because you think of Calum O'Dowd, and he's always kind of one who you've always wanted to see push on to that next level. Never really has. The fact that maybe he's playing in group stages of a European competition this year could help him, and it could help him maybe elevate him into the squad. Look, I don't know what he can do to get in ahead of Robbie Brady, but if he was playing European football, then you could probably say he should be in ahead of Robbie Brady. If he's playing week in, week out European football, there's an argument to be made on that, but he would have to be playing week in, week out. He might just be going there and be a squad player. We don't know yet, so we're going to have to see how that one pans out. We know he's got ability, but again, we spoke about it with Johnston just there. Does he have the consistency over a long period to show it, and can he take that form into the international setup? Because that's what Hamer's been good at lately, is picking players that are in form to come in and compete and play to their strengths. So if O'Dowd is doing well, and Keane and a lot of the staff, there's Rory Delap there, they would have been Irish, to Philip Hudson as well, so they have an Irish kind of backroom staff there, so that should help them settle as well. And I wouldn't say it's the last Irish international or Irish player that we see go there, because I think Robbie Keane has been linked with a few. I think Shane Duffy was linked there before. Troy Parrott was linked as well last year. Sorry, no, he wasn't. That was for the Israeli side. But he's keeping an eye on a lot of Irish internationals. So I could foresee more Irish players going there. Maybe not this summer, but over in time, as long as Robbie's there, I think he could use that to his advantage, because I think some of the championship players there in the squad could do well over in Hungary. I don't think the Hungarian league is that strong, but again, it's a great test for them. If they're playing internationally, they should be able to play in European competition. So I think it's going to be beneficial for O'Dowd, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I think the difference between this move and the Mikey Johnston move, Mikey Johnston is, I think, 26 or 27, still kind of in the prime of his career, going to another league that is at a top level. The Hungarian league, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on the Hungarian league, but it isn't of that. I know he's playing European football, and selfishly for him, that's a great experience to be able to play against Europe's best. But I would say he hasn't been in the Ireland setup for a while now. Probably unlikely that he will return to that unless he goes out there and tears it up, which I'm not putting past him. I do like Calum O'Dowd as a player, and maybe not the flashiest player, but always gives 100%, and that's probably a big reason why they've brought him out there. I would say Mikey Johnston is still at that kind of peak of his career where you'd be hoping that he'd still contribute for Ireland. So that would be what I'd see as the difference between those two moves.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And for me personally, like I said, I don't know much about the Hungarian league either, but the move from Mikey Johnston, I mean, I love it. I love it way more than the O'Dowd move. But I suppose we'll see what happens.
I just think with the lure of playing for Robbie Keane, he probably would have been in a couple of squads with him in his very early days.
Maybe, yeah.
He definitely would have been in and around the setup, and he probably would have. Yeah, he would have been in the squad when Robbie was assistant Mick, so he'd have been comfortable knowing, Robbie, and Robbie would have seen him up close and personal then. So he's obviously saw something, identified it, and got him again. When the lure of Republic of Ireland legend, whatever your opinions are away from football on him, he is a legend within Ireland and that. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why he couldn't turn it down, and it's probably a fresh challenge for him and his family or whatever. And look, he could go there for a year. If he doesn't like it, he can come back. Yeah, absolutely. So two very interesting moves for the Irish abroad. Another interesting move, just to take it to the League of Ireland standpoint. Paul, your Shelbourne have a new permanent manager. Joey O'Brien has agreed to be the Shells manager on a permanent basis. He's agreed to a long-term deal. He obviously managed his first game in charge as the permanent manager at home against Cork there on Friday.
and great win, 3-1 win. Also, actually, aside from him being his first game, it was the first game in Tolka without Damien Duff. So, your thoughts on this decision by the club?
I think it's the decision that makes sense. You've talked to any of the players or any of the, you've seen some of the statements that came out. It seems as though it was never going to be anybody else. And the way Duff used to speak about Joey O'Brien is that it's almost as if O'Brien had a handle over the group anyway, because he's seen as like this kind of sort of hard man or whatever. But he was like that at Rovers too. I remember a story about Jack Byrne one time where Jack had just come back from England and he was kind of acting like he was too big for the club, and they were playing a game of Red Arse. So I know it probably sound mad, but it was literally that. And Jack had lost and he wouldn't go and goal. And Joey actually was the one who had to say to him, was like, "Who do you think you are? You're too big for that." And it was a big wake up call. And that's when Jack went on to have become player of the year and all that, because he kind of swallowed his pride. But it was Joey O'Brien who made him do that. So that story kind of stands out to me. So that if anyone's thinking that they're too big time or whatever, he's not afraid to give them some home truths. And he's someone who's been there in terms of the Premier League. Maybe hasn't reached the heights of, say, Duff in terms of international appearances and caps and Premier League titles and stuff like that. But Joey had a good Premier League career. And he had a good career at Shamrock Rovers as well, where he was kind of there when they started to turn things and started winning trophies. And I think he was a big driving force in that as well. He was a big player for the Shamrock Rovers squad, and I think he's come into Shells. He's been a big influence as well. And now the fact that he's the manager, and as I said, everyone's been talking. Mark Coyle did an interview after Duff left and basically said there's no better man for the job. So I trust in what Mark Coyle has said. It does look like the players, the shackles have been off them last couple of games and stuff like that. Like Harry Woods kind of came out and started scoring goals. Looks a bit more alive. Meatballs scored, looks really, really good at the minute. Not that they weren't good under Duff or whatever, but it was just like, it just seemed as though Shells couldn't score. There was a lot of possession, but it does seem now like they're just kind of more direct and getting the goals. Obviously JJ Lundy scored. Now I just want to say on Cork's defence, like, I never thought that was a red card, and that red card did change things, so it would have been interesting with 11v11 what way that game could have gone. So just for Cork fans, probably deserve a bit better in terms of officiating in that aspect, because they just got a goal and they were coming back into the game, so it's a bit unfortunate for them. And it's another loss for them, and it's just constantly going that way for them.
Steve, I can't imagine there'd be too much of a change in kind of tactical approach from Joey O'Brien, obviously being Damien Duff's assistant for a long time, but it'd be interesting to see how he kind of approaches the media. Obviously we know Damien Duff's various run-ins with different reporters. What do you think?
Well, it's definitely going to be a big change there, yeah, because we're obviously used to Duff taking the headlines every week. But I actually want to ask you a question, Paul. Like, for me especially, like, I 100% expected Joey O'Brien to take over. And I know a lot of people did, like you said. But for you as a Shells fan, is that the man you wanted to take the club forward? Being Duff's understudy and all that? Or did you have someone else in mind that you would have liked to come in?
I think it's difficult because it's timing. You know what I mean? Obviously, the Champions League games coming up and stuff like that. If you're going and you're getting a new manager and you're changing all of that in a couple of days or a week, it just, there could be players that he doesn't like or whatever. I think it makes most sense. He's obviously, had a huge impression on the club and inside the club, and I'm sure the owners and Luke Byrne, who's the technical director, they would have spoken to. Well, I know that they're close with Duff as well, so I know Luke Byrne probably would have. He was really close with Duff, and I'm sure he would have said to him, his opinion on Duff coming in as manager or whatever. And obviously Joey made no mistake that he wanted to become a manager, so I think it just made so much sense to do it. It's going to be up to him now to prove that he can be the man to do it. And I mean, if he gets a good run in Europe, what a way to start that would be. And if he gets the win over Linfield as well, I mean, he'll have more than proven that he's the man for the job.
Yeah. And then your thoughts on it, Tom?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There's not too many good managers out there anyway at the minute, is there?
Exactly, yeah, except if you want to go the Roddy Collins route. But look, no, I think it was probably the obvious decision, and kind of brings a bit of stability where there seemed to be kind of roller coaster of a season so far for Shells. Kind of settles things down. Maybe if you were of the opinion that Shells needed a kind of change from this style of management, then maybe you would have said give him the job to the end of the season and we'll figure it out then. But having said that, Joey O'Brien was linked to other jobs in the league prior to Damien Duff even leaving, so that's how kind of highly he is thought of in the league. So I think a promising manager in the League of Ireland. We'll see how he gets on, only time will tell.
What a platform for him to have to go and show what he can do. Like, do you know what I mean? He's literally in the Champions League this week against Linfield, against like a local rival. I mean, what a way to really be thrown into the deep end. But he seems like he's
He's well up for it.
thriving in it.
Absolutely. Huge platform to showcase himself. But Steve, your Shamrock Rovers drew away in the showgrounds on Saturday night 2-2. Obviously on Friday night, Derry hammered Waterford 7-2 in the Brandywell. So right now, the situation as it lies is that Rovers are top of the league. They are clear of Derry by 9 points, but Derry have 2 games in hand. This opens the door slightly, do you think?
Look, I know we said it last week about Derry.
You've been tempering expectations on Rovers. A lot of us have been saying the league title's over. You haven't been saying that.
You could call me paranoid, or maybe I'm using reverse psychology. But we talked about Derry last week. Look, every season is the same story with Derry. Like Paul said, they're up there, and they drop off at the end. But yeah, I mean, for a Rovers point of view, we've lost down in Sligo already this season. So I knew it was going to be a rough game going down, but to concede from a set piece early on, so frustrating. It was actually the same in the reverse leg up there. We conceded so early from a set piece. We actually conceded 2 goals from set pieces in that game. So it's very, very frustrating. And then the second goal, Pico kind of gets sold, and yeah, rough. But look, it could be worse. We left there with a point. Bowles also dropped points as well. So it's not the worst draw in the world. Let's not act like it's some crisis. But yeah, frustrating though.
Paul, you were hesitant to say that Derry were brilliant last week. I suppose the jury's still out, and in the coming fixtures we'll find out if they are capable of pulling off something brilliant. But that was brilliant up in the Brandywell the other night.
Happy to be proven wrong. I'm always happy to be proven wrong in those scenarios. Maybe they had what I said up on the wall, and and said, "Oh, we're going to show them." No, but like in all seriousness, it's great to see them doing well. I want to, like, as a league, you need the competitiveness. You need someone. Look at how much eyes the title race brought last season, because it was down to the wire. And if I think Italian, but when you bring it down to the wire like that, like it excites people. But when you have a 1-horse race for the whole thing, you're just kind of like, oh, this is boring. Rovers have won it, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I don't feel that way. But sorry, go on.
No, but I'm talking about, like, you look at before the season before last, it was Rovers 4 in a row. You know what I mean? And they were not far away from getting 5 in a row. But the fact of the matter is, if Derry can, keep on the form, brilliant. And look, Mickey Duffy's in outstanding form at the moment now. Liam Boyce with a hat-trick. Maybe that's the kickstart that they need. And Gavin White as well was brilliant as well in the game.
Sadou Diallo, an absolute screamer.
Yeah, he's huge for them having him back. But that's 4 great wins in a row. Waterford, Drogheda, Shells, Pats. I mean, they're on some run.
Yeah, but just you spoke about Rovers. Jaddy Kiki, great goal, but another player I want to touch on, and I'm not sure if you have it to chat about, because it was happened earlier in the week. But Own-Eling with an assist for one of them goals. Yeah, he's linked with Juventus. Incredible. So I just wanted to talk about that.
Yeah,
and I'll start with you on that one. Like, we talk about Noonan, we talk about Melia, and then there's Own-Eling, who looks like he's switching to Ireland from England, and now he's linked with Juventus. Probably the unsung of the 3. Doesn't get talked about nowhere near as enough now. I know it's his first season coming in, and he's a little bit older than them. But yeah, your thoughts on him? And you would have saw him against Bowes when he scored that screamer last week as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. Like, it's great when you see a player who, like, I didn't know much about Own-Eling before this season. When you see a player grow into that kind of stature of kind of carrying a club like Sligo, and I know they have other good players. I don't want to kind of make it out like they have, a terrible team. And I think actually that match against Rovers kind of showcased some of those players, the likes of Jada Kiki, James McManus gone on loan, Will Fitzgerald. But back to Own-Eling, he's really grown into his skin as like a top player in the League of Ireland, and I do think that is a factor in that he's not a teenager anymore. He's 20 years old. Some people for some reason seem to think that that's a knock on him, and look, it means that he is more of a developed player, of course, and I think I don't want to say it's no shock that he's being linked to big clubs. It is a huge shock that he's being linked to the likes of Juventus, but I hope it happens. I'd love to see a player go over to Italy and such a top club like that. And Steve, I know you have your ear to the ground when it comes to European football. You know that young players do go to Juventus and succeed.
Yeah, because Juventus have a really good loaning system. They loan a lot of players out to Serie B and in these lower table Serie A sides. So I think if he's going to go somewhere like a European giant, I think Juve is a nice place to go. Get to go live in Italy. I just think it's a great move for a young player, especially if he goes out on loan. But look, maybe he doesn't go out on loan. maybe he keeps on scoring for Sligo. He goes to Juve and somehow makes it into the squad. You know, you never know. These things can happen so fast. But what a player! And I think the difference is with him, it's because he's down in Sligo. If he was at a Dublin club, you'd be hearing loads of people raving about him. That's the big difference here. Let's be honest.
As they say outside of Dublin, the Dublin media.
Yeah,
Exactly. But that's the beauty of our Shelbourne Fan TV. We give a light to the players outside of Dublin. We love them all.
As much as
Derry
people
Fan
don't want to
TV.
admit it. Yeah, exactly. As much as people don't want to admit it. But look, Steve, this game, it started disastrously for Rovers. I think even their fan bus crashed into the gates of the showground, I believe I heard, before
Twitter,
and they go 2-0.
I wasn't driving it.
You weren't driving it, certainly not. You would have steered it in perfectly. But they go 2 goals down. They recover a point. Not the end of the world. But to move on to the game that was on TV.
Just before you do that, just on Elding, like you were saying there, it'd be a surprise for him to move to Juventus or even to Own-Eling. We would say that about even Nathan Collins.
Yeah.
Who's our kind of star man at the minute. So like even if he was linked to Juventus, we'd all be like, remember Kelleher was linked to Juventus. We were all hoping it was going to happen. So the fact that like Elding, who's the League of Ireland kind of talent coming through, and the fact that he's linked to him is even more of a bigger scale. I think that's why we're all like, it's just good to see, you know, players in our league getting linked to a club of such big stature. Sorry,
yeah, it's brilliant, and hopefully Sligo are able to command a decent fee from him as well on that one. But moving on to the game that was on TV, it was on Virgin Media on Friday. Pats against Bows. Probably not the best point for either team. I think in the first half especially, the most entertaining part of the game was seeing Bows wear their new Oasis jersey. Maybe Pats probably just about shaded the first half. Into the first 20 minutes of the second half, Pats were really on top. Bows were backs against the walls. And then the complete opposite in the last 20 minutes of the game, where Bows could have easily won the match. Paul, you're watching this match. Not the best point probably for either team.
No, but like Steve said last week about Pats and they play nice football and stuff like that, and it's just the balls just doesn't seem. It just reminds me of Ireland all over again, playing like decent football and that. But then not being able to put the ball in the net, and that's just been it'd be a big worry. I think Keith Tracy said it on the on the
broadcast of it.
Punditry.
Yeah.
And he basically said that you know, it's a worry that they can't score goals, but they're so open defensively as well. So something needs to change there. You know what I mean? Where you need to be scoring bags of goals. If you're conceding loads as well, like I mean, it's very obvious. Like, you know, if you're conceding loads, you need to score more to win the games. But the fact that they're not scoring, I mean, they were lucky to get a clean sheet, but they were unlucky in the game to not win it with Simon Powers. You know, lovely ball by Jamie Lennon around the corner, and Simon Power first time bang goal. And yeah, when you don't have VAR in the league, it's difficult. You know what I mean? And like the officiating is just poor in my opinion. I go back to the Cork, the Charlie Lyons red card, and you have the goal that wasn't the goal, but it should have been. And you know, I can see why it's frustrating for managers every week, and for Kenny as well. Like he did say it, like they were really good over spells, and that's why there's probably an element of me that I feel sorry for him, that maybe they're not winning games, but they're still playing well. So it's not like the players aren't trying for him or anything like that. It's just sometimes luck's not going for you. I did see him speaking about Aidan Keane as well. There was a moment where Keane Levy cut into the box and he should have probably squared it to Aidan Keane. And like Keane is just like seems to be fine about it. He's just like whatever. Like if you're a centre forward there and you're, you know, dying for a goal, I can't imagine Rory Gaffney would be standing there going, yeah, give me the ball. You know what I mean? And I think Keane needs to be a bit more greedy in that scenario on cover, because Keane Levy's a great player, but he just runs with his head down all the time. So someone needs to get into his ear, you know, to look up. Little cut back there, and that was a goal as well. As far as Bows are concerned, I mean, yeah, the real highlight was, I suppose, wearing that Oasis jersey, and like, you tie that in with obviously Oasis were back in Cardiff and all on Friday, so it made sense. Do you know what I mean? And I know I said it to in the group chat as well. It's like the jersey actually is nicer when you kind of see it not in a like dark pool room or whatever. I get the concept behind what they were trying to do and stuff like that, but they should have had pictures out in the bright light to kind of show it a bit more as well. But it is a nice jersey, in fairness. I'll give it that. But except for the Bows crest, but other than that, it is nice. But yeah, no, that's just my thoughts on the game. It's more of a point gained for Pats, I would say, and more of a points dropped for Bows, in my opinion. What would you say? And
I was going to ask that to Steve. I was going to say, like, because Bows are trying to maintain this great run that they'd been on. Obviously dropped a couple of points over the last couple of games. Pats on the complete opposite end of it. I believe 6th in the league, winless in 5. Who do you think would be happier with this point, Steve?
I think Pats would be happier, as strange as it sounds, even though, like you said, they're like 5 or 6 games without a win.
Even considering the way the game went?
Yeah, because honestly, I thought Pats were lucky to get out of that with a point, because at the end, I mean, Ross Tierney, Whelan came off the bench. He looked like a proper threat.
He missed an absolute sitter at the end.
He did.
He's
Doug-
probably pissed off though, because you were literally just about to say his name, but Douglas James Tamer comes in and starts.
Exactly.
That's probably the rocket up the arse that Calum Whelan needed.
That's exactly what I was going to say. He looked like he came on with a point to prove. And I mean, Taylor missed a sitter. And was that in the end of the first half? I think that was.
Oh, sorry. Taylor missed a sitter at the end of the first half. Wouldn't say a sitter, but he at least should have got it on target. Colin Whelan had a great chance with a header in injury time, so probably disappointed with that one.
Yeah, but I thought Bowes, I mean, to Paul's point with Pats, if you're going to be that open defensively, you have to score goals. And every time Pats gave the ball away, Bowes hit them hard. Dale Rooney out on that left. I know he switched to the right some point in the second half, but he was killing them out on that wing. Ross Tierney's movement. I just thought Bowes at times are playing great football. Same with Pats though. Pats are playing fantastic football at times. They hit the bar in the first half. And then, like Paul said, Aidan Keane at times, he just wasn't coming to meet the ball. He wasn't getting that centre forward position. Mason Media comes on, you see the difference straight away. Way more energetic.
First game, Jake Mulvaney played well in a while as well.
Yeah, exactly. I thought Jake played a lot better. But yeah, I thought Mason Media came on and showed something way more threats than Aidan Keane did. But overall, it's points drop for Bowes in my eyes, because I think they're the better side. What do you think yourself?
Yeah, I probably would agree with that, given how the game ended. Like you said, it was really like Pats were really hanging in there by the last, by the last 20 minutes, but really in added time and in the last kind of 10 minutes, they're really backs against the walls. 11 men in their own half, and Bowes really piling on the pressure. I think the positives was Dawson Devoy. I thought he was absolutely incredible.
God.
I think he covered every blade of grass on that pitch. But I think, from a team point of view, like more generally, I thought it was a really sloppy performance, and I would say the same for Pats as well. I thought in possession, both teams were really kind of sloppy on the ball. wasn't the greatest showcase of the two teams' talents, and I know Pats will say they haven't really showcased their own talent in a long time now anyway, whether it's on TV or not. But Bowes, I think, have been playing at a better level than what they showed, especially in the first half of that game. So I would probably agree that it was a point dropped for Bowes. Having said that though, it was a real opportunity for Pats, I think, at home, real blustery conditions. It was a chance to kind of get a really big win, kind of turn the momentum against one of your big, Dublin rivals. It was a chance to kind of get this, train back on the tracks, maybe make a late push for Europe, and they weren't able to capitalise.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but I think with Pats, they're kind of looking forward to Europe, I'd imagine. No, I don't know, I'm not part of the fan base or the club, whatever. But
You're not part of the fan base.
I knew you were going to say that. But I feel like the way Pats play and have been playing this season, offensively, I think that the European games will suit them a lot. So I can see Pats kicking off in Europe, and then that maybe affecting their league form. But yeah, I don't know. It's a strange one, Pats. It's a real strange one.
And last year they were the league's top scorers, and now all of a sudden they've gone on this barren run. Anyway, we'll finish up with this, lads.
I
go ahead.
Touch on that little point. Is that like we're obviously close with Chris Forrester, and we'd be talking to him, and he did say like it is different in Europe. Players enjoy Europe a bit more. So it'll be interesting to see what way that Pat's kind of set up in Europe. Will it be a different formation? Will we see different players coming in or whatever? But they were really nice to watch last year in Europe, and obviously we talk about them kind of kick and start their season from there and all. And they said it on Virgin as well the other day. Like they'd be lucky if they keep going the way they're going. They won't do well in Europe, but if they can manage to turn it around, huge credit will have to go to Stephen Kenny.
Yeah, and that
and the team
brings me nicely on to the last bit here. I want to get. This will obviously be our last show until Shell's playing Europe and Pat's playing Europe. Rovers playing next week, I believe.
Yeah.
So predictions. Shell's first. Shell's at home to Linfield. Paul?
I think 1-0 and then take it up to Belfast. For Shells. Yeah, I can't. Well, just the way Shells play, I can't see Shells going to turn them over by many goals. But if someone like me turns up and is really, shows what he can do. I know Chris Shields out the first game, so that's big. So Shells will need to capitalise on obviously trying to get a good result while he's out, because he'll be back for the second leg up there. And look, they'll try and make that a cauldron up there, but it's up to Shells and the Shells fans and maybe some of the League of Ireland neutrals to try and make it as hostile as possible for Linfield. But yeah, Pats, I'll be nice and I'll go for a 1-0 win.
Steve, will you be cheering for Shells this week?
I can see a 2-1 Shells win. I think Meebo turns up. Harry Wood's playing great football, like Paul said earlier on. I think between them two, I can see a nice little 2-1 win for Shells. I can't see them losing at home, especially with that little, new manager bounce. So, and then Pats, I'll go for 2-0 Pats.
2-0 Pats. So,
yeah,
I think the Shells game could go one of two ways. I think Shells just could overpower them with the amount of talent that they have in that team. I do think there is quite a big gap between those two leagues, and I think Shells, on their day, could be a really, really strong team. But I suppose that's the story of Shells season. On their day, they could be that top team. I'm going to back them and say 2-0. I'll agree with Steve. You said 2-0, did you?
2-1.
2-1. I'll go with 2-0. And then Pats, I just don't know. It's just hard to say with a team like Hegelman from Lithuania. Like, we don't really know much about them at all. And
They just won 5-2 as well at the weekend.
really, yeah. I don't even know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing because I don't know who they're playing.
Well, they're scoring goals is the main thing.
That's the thing. So, I suppose 2-1. I'll give them that. I know it goes against Pat's not scoring form, but apparently Lithuanian teams score goals according to Steve.
And then Rovers will find out their opponent this week. It'll be either Cliftonville or St. Joseph's from Gibraltar. So
who are you hoping for?
Cliftonville. Come on, we rock up there on the team bus. All of us can go together, lads. Paulie can drive. That's the way he looks at his shoulder.
Anyway, on that, we'll see you next week.